Good afternoon. Welcome to Lunch Bites. This is Pastor Rich with Lake Missionary Church. We're so glad you're here today. It's a little cool, it's a little rainy today, but I'm glad you're here. I just want to ask a question. I want to start off with a question, and if you would, just kind of respond down in the comments below. If you knew at the beginning of 2020 that we were going to have to spend 2 months basically not meeting as a church, being pretty much in a lockdown situation where we're not allowed to go out, and a lot of people don't have work, can't work, what would you have done differently? What was something you would change in your life? And for me, as I think about that question, the one thing I would probably change is going back and forth to Dayton and spending more time with my mom over preparing a house to be sold. Right now we can't see Mom. She is in a independent living situation, so they've pretty much locked down their building. So, but what would you do? What is the thing that you would have done differently at the start of the year? So just comment that below, and we'd like to just see what that would be. And I want to read from John chapter 21 today. It said, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? He answered, yes, Lord. You know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things, for you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. I tell you the truth. When you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you to where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. It's an interesting passage. What's happened here is it's right after Jesus has been resurrected. It's after the crucifixion and resurrection. And Peter and some of the other disciples are out fishing. And Jesus is on the beach and calls out to them to come in. And so they finish what they're doing. They come in. And Jesus has breakfast with them. And it's interesting that there is a Peter before the crucifixion and resurrection and a Peter after the crucifixion and resurrection. So I think about this as kind of two different Peters. Would Peter have answered this question differently on both sides? And the answer is yes, he did. He really had the opportunity to answer this question on both sides of the crucifixion and resurrection. So think about right before the crucifixion, Jesus told Peter, you'll deny me 3 times. Now imagine how upset Peter must have been and saying, I won't deny you. Why are you saying that? And yet at the end of the day, he denied him 3 times. Then after the resurrection, he meets with Peter and he asks him 3 times, do you love me? And Peter gets frustrated. He says, yes, I love you. You know this. You know all things. You know I love you. And then Jesus goes on to tell him basically how he will die. But I want to think about just the answers for a second. So on the front half, before the resurrection, Peter was asked if he was part of the group that was with Jesus. Are you affiliated with Jesus? And of course, 3 times he said no. Afterwards, Jesus asked him if he loves him 3 times. Well, if you look at that and you go back in the Greek, he uses 2 words there, phileo and agape. First 2 times is phileo, brotherly love. Do you love me like a brother? Well, yeah. But do you really love me? Agape, that third question, it's a unconditional love. And he says, yeah, I do. I love you beyond anything, and you know all things. And he goes on to this whole point. Before the resurrection, think about it. Jesus would have answered that third question, yes, as long as I didn't have to give up my life. And then at the end, Jesus then reminds Peter, you will give up your life for me. So as I think about this pandemic and this time that we've gone through, how has this changed you? What would you have done differently before the pandemic versus what you do after the pandemic? And maybe Jesus today is calling out to you. Do you love me? And maybe before the pandemic, we would have said, yeah, as long as it didn't change my life too much. But after the pandemic, maybe it's, I love you, and it doesn't matter what my life is about and what I do. So I challenge you with that today. Just our quick little devotional time. Think about that today. What would you have done differently before the pandemic, and what would you do differently after? And how would that change? What does that look like in your life? So I just want to thank you for taking a minute to listen and to be thinking about these things. I want to invite you to Lake Live on Facebook Live on Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. Pastor Mike Kane will be speaking this week. He'll be speaking on prayer. So we'd love for you to join us for that. So have a great day. We look forward to seeing you soon.